there. This week, Warner Brothers Pictures released the latest Scooby Doo film entitled Scoob, and rather poignantly, as far as I'm concerned, covers some of Scooby Doo's backstory. This video is not just for you guys, those that kind of regularly tune in to my channel. I mean, it's also an open invitation to Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy to some extent, although he's rather complicit in some of Scooby's issues. And to perhaps get Scooby into therapy, or at least, let's get an intervention underway and get him on the road to well-being. We all love him, but clearly he has issues. I'd like to work therapeutically with Scooby Doo, and my rationale for him needing help and what I do about it is pretty much as follows in this video. I mean, first up, he is a chronic worrier. Scooby Doo does appear to worry to excess, so much so that his teeth chatter in a way that you'd expect someone with a kind of severe form of hypothermia to exhibit. I teach him basic and applied relaxation skills and employ some sort of hypnotic desensitization to help lower the very real physiological anxiety, the affect that he has that makes him regularly pounce up and into the arms of his friend Shaggy, or cower behind nearby furniture. Shaggy helps Scooby avoid a lot of situations too, which creates negative reinforcement I'll speak about later, of his anxiety, whereby he gets rewarded for avoiding rather than facing his fears and conquering them. Second up, Scooby experiences a lot of fear. I teach Scooby-Doo proper Socratic questioning techniques, cognitively, so that he'd examine his own thoughts and ideally seek out some logical explanation for things that he's afraid of, rather than letting his imagination run wild and catastrophize as it seemingly does. In the past, time after time, Scooby-Doo has discovered that it was not an actual ghost or a real monster, but in fact a person with a vested interest who's pretending to be such an entity. You think he would have learned from all of those former experiences, wouldn't you? I'd like him to take a kind of more of a sort of empiricist perspective and draw upon the evidence that he's encountered and examine the likelihood of the monsters and ghosts being real and likely to harm him. Scooby obviously has a great imagination, make him a great candidate for hypnotherapy because, he fears certain outcomes. I'd utilize this and have him mentally rehearse coping well with similar situations in the future whilst in the hypnotherapy sessions. As already mentioned, Scooby avoids certain situations and circumstances. He derives comfort from avoidance and escape, and this serves to negatively reinforce his fear and his apprehension towards those situations and circumstances. Again, I'd probably run through some mental rehearsal of approach behavior and role play of those scenarios, develop some assertiveness training, and perhaps with the adjunct of some problem solving before tasking him with some sort of in vivo exposure to those circumstances, equipping him with the right kind of coping skills for staying the course while his symptoms abate in those situations. Next up, he comfort eats. He eats for comfort. He derives courage and is often seemingly bribed into situations by being rewarded with Scooby snacks and other treats. He also spends moments in the midst of investigations reducing his anxiety by eating those multi-tiered sandwiches. I'd be keen to equip Scooby with the skills to deal with his anxiety and not have to reach for food to help lower it. Eating for emotional reasons is typically unhealthy. It's plain to see he can be helped. He's got a good support network around him that he can lean upon. That said, I do think that Shaggy is probably a bad influence at times, as well as a good friend. He's well-meaning. Shaggy often confirms Scooby's irrational fears and thus makes them worse, often exaggerating and amplifying them. So, this is a sort of initial treatment plan, a sort of outline with regards to how I'd go about helping Scooby Doo get himself together in the therapy room. I'd need to do a proper, more formal and comprehensive assessment first. But that's what I'd initially consider as a result of my initial observations of him. Tailoring a treatment plan for Scooby Doo got me thinking. If I managed to successfully help Scooby Doo to establish a better level of mental and emotional health and well-being, I'm likely to get some referrals and a chance to work with other professional peers of his. Because, despite living in the highly uplifting, simple world of A.A. Milne's creating, I'm surrounded by positive influences of Tigger, Pooh, and friends. Eeyore clearly needs help. I believe he has a very chronic form of depression, and he's incredibly pessimistic. I recall, a while back, I listened to a Radio 5 Live show, and it was hosted by former England cricket captain Michael Vaughan. And it was all about the dynamics of the dressing room in sport. And when interviewed, Burnley football manager Sean Dyche mentioned how important it was to get someone out of the team or squad if they were disruptive. And he used the expression "misery loves company." And I'm pretty sure that those of you tuning in, all know what's meant by this notion. It's referred to a great deal in therapy, for example, and certainly personal development circles. Unhappy people typically tend to like others, in particular those others that are close to them, to be unhappy too. The unhappiness of others can become satisfying to such a person, and it serves as a kind of perverse form of comfort. Additionally, when people are not happy, or if they are disillusioned or gossiping, they often seek to spread it and for it to become contagious. And it very often spreads in a kind of surreptitious fashion and with subterfuge. Eeyore is at a lower level than this. He doesn't even attempt to drag others into his misery. He's dismissive of his own beliefs and always insists others will do a better job than him. He's a real poor me mentality, or that others will make better choices than him. Eeyore's got very low energy levels, very low self-esteem, doesn't outwardly appear capable of making good decisions for himself, and his disorder seems to be very persistent. Though he's quite stubborn. Though I'm not professionally able to offer formal diagnosis, I'd say Eeyore's condition is chronic. In therapy, I think it best to shine a light into those dark corners where these things can breed and spread. But on a personal level, I think it's wise for everyone to recognise how they're being influenced by others and the mood that they spread. You may not even realise what sort of impact someone else is having upon you until you reflect objectively. I'd advise Eeyore's colleagues, friends, peers, to not let him drag them into his dark place. Just recently, during lockdown, I also sat down with my kids to watch the classic Disney film The Little Mermaid. The entire series of The Little Mermaid films is currently available on the relatively new Disney Plus channel, Disney Plus app. It's a lovely film anyway, until you realise the mental health issues that the main character Ariel has, and how in turn they detrimentally impact and affect the lives of those who care about her. Firstly, she hoards. She is a hoarder. She finds things that humans have discarded or lost. Junk, rubbish. And she keeps them all in a big secret cave dwelling, where she sort of dreams and fantasizes of a life she cannot and really ought not lead. The hoarding, it's a major issue, but it's not the one that I'm keen to discuss the most or help her with necessarily. I think it's probably a byproduct of some other things. Just a sort of adjunct to this, let me share with you something I posted on Facebook a little while. Make the ordinary come alive, a poem. Do not ask your children to strive for extraordinary lives. Such striving may seem admirable, but it's a way of foolishness. Help them instead to find the wonder and the marvel of an ordinary life. Show them the joy of tasting tomatoes, apples, and pears. Show them how to cry when pets and people die. Show them the infinite pleasure in the touch of a hand. And make the ordinary come alive for them. The extraordinary will take care of itself. I love this. It is by William Martin from The Parents' Tao Te Ching, Ancient Advice for Modern Parents. I share this because I love it so much. To me, it speaks of a lovely philosophy in life that also has important applications in my work. Ariel pined for a life that she didn't have, and it made her desperately unhappy. She yearned to be part of their world. Her reference to wanting to dance and play with humans who walked around on legs, as opposed to the mermaids and mermen in her own world. She made some very poor decisions that eventually led to the demise of her father for a period of time. Learning how to enjoy the seemingly ordinary day, the sort of day-to-day experiences, with my children, with running, with my garden, with my studies, have contributed to this kind of perspective, an approach that also serves my own psychological and emotional well-being greatly. And I'd like to better share that with Ariel. And it's not just useful personally, that those who know me and my work know that I adopt this kind of stance often when it comes to hypnosis and how we conceptualize hypnosis, therapy, and people's well-being in general. That you learn to enjoy the ordinary psychological processes that combine to form what hypnosis is, rather than seeking the magical and intangible in the first instance. I found that learning how to perceive these ordinary psychological processes to be rather magical in and of themselves. And I've also found marveling at that the ordinary psychological processes helps to yield some of the seemingly most magical results in therapy too. Ariel started out as a mermaid with a lot of magical elements to her life. If only she stopped for a moment to enjoy them, to smell the rose. I'm going to smell the roses. I don't know how many roses there are under the sea. Anyway, the singing crustaceans in particular. I'm not entirely surprised that Ariel had some mental health struggles. Her mother died when she was young. Her father is prone to violent outbursts, and her best friend Flounder has a definite anxiety disorder. However, I think she'd benefit greatly from some hypnotherapy with me. And since she's married loyalty, I think she's able to afford the fees. So who else then? I think that Pinocchio would probably want to come and see me for his pathological lying. He probably wouldn't be comfortable admitting that he had a problem necessarily. Charlie Brown could probably use my help with his depression. Although I think Lucy's kind of got that covered. She's currently giving him some therapy sessions. He might not find the time or have the inclination to see me as a result. Homer Simpson does seem to break into fits of explosive anger. SpongeBob SquarePants, definitely lacks all social inhibition and the sort of necessary constraints required for appropriate social interaction. That's not including all the kind of rich royal villains with a variety of disorders that could be treated to, advance their ongoing experiences of life, enrich things a little bit. So there you have it, the market I'd be free to tap into if I got to work with Scooby Doo. ICU, and give him some hypnotherapy. Let's turn his life around. If you know anyone who can put me in touch, then let me know. That's it for today's video. Do subscribe to this channel. You'll get notifications of my latest videos as they happen. And do go visit my college website for details of our upcoming classroom-based courses and all of our online courses as well on topics of self-hypnosis, hypnotherapy and beyond. I send you my very best wishes. Goodbye for now.